want to steal your thunder.
Close. And this time, make sure you take it back. Oh, and do feel free to double check my addition or anybody's. We're adding stuff. Okay, let me make a few comments first about the stock issues. Stock issues, HIPSA, harms, inherent block, planks, solvency, advantages. If you're doing the cut down plan like you're doing, it's HIPS. Remember your HIPS? Harms, inherent block, planks, solvency. Now, it was hard for us on both sides to follow the debate because you're not telling us where you are in your debate. Harm number one, I wrote down actually 6 harms for you because you made 3 or 4 arguments. Then it seemed like you made 2 other arguments. So I didn't know if they were even more harms. On the planks of your plan, traditional way to do it is plank number 1, the legislative unit will pass a plan that says, It makes it so much easier for us to follow. On your side, you guys should be attacking the same issues. HIPSA, harms, inherent block, planks, solvency if you're leaving out A's. And then also D's on your side, disadvantages. But you also have to defend the status quo. Negative, you can't have it both ways. You either launch a counterplan or you defend the status quo. You can't do both. So all that stuff that you guys said about we want to fix up the status quo, it's actually admitting the status quo doesn't work. That's why it's not allowed. They shouldn't have done it in the last debate. You should have done it now. So we just basically ignored that. On the other comment, during rebuttals, both sides brought up new arguments. That attack on asking for the funding breakdown, if you'd have made that into attack in the second speech, you would have could well have won the debate. But you can't bring up a new argument. Now they responded to it, which is always the safe thing to do. So you can't make new arguments in the last debate. You can respond to somebody else's argument with an answer, but you can't make a new argument. One feeling that I got through this debate, especially on the affirmative and some circuits on negative, is that you had a plan and then you started coming out with advantages, which you never called advantages. And they kept kind of going on as the debate went on. They kept hearing more and more of them. And I don't know whether to score them. I don't know whether to count them because you don't explain them, you don't give evidence. On your side, you said those disadvantages, but you didn't give me evidence. And you didn't really return to them. And then you started adding on more of them, and then you started changing your position. If you make it easy for the judge, you're well on your way to winning. So please, make it easy for the judge. Don't make it hard. Beginning debates are always hard to judge. High-level debates are actually easy. All I have to do is I listen to her argument, decide what's better, I make my decision. Okay. Yeah, your turn.
I think, it's always interesting to listen to debates, especially, I guess you were unfortunate to have us last time, so it's almost like saying, oh, hey, well, you didn't say that last time. It seems like you're, arguing a different, but it's fun because we know that then you're really learning debate. You can think about both sides. I agree with what he says that I think, especially, I've always told my students, don't think of judges, we're not superhumans. We don't have incredibly super fast minds, we can't always write everything down, we can't always pay attention to everything. So the more you help us focus on what you think are the issues that you can win, that you're winning on, that will make you win, it makes our job so much easier. We don't have to review and try to decide for ourselves. It's kind of by the end of the rebuttals, we'll just be like, okay, yeah, I already know who I think won. It's just a matter of we agree with you. We don't have to think for you. But that's part of learning how to debate, is to be able to, when you're up there and being nervous. Oh, speaking of being nervous, was a second negative rebuttal, or first negative rebuttal. You may want to practice deep breathing exercises or something, because I think once you're nervous, it not only hurts you, but again, because this is a team, it hurts your team. Not only because you're wasting time, but it also, I think, gives the judge a little more negative opinion about the team as a whole. So I think you need to really practice, and maybe your teammates need to help you with trying to think. But again, it's hard. You have to think on your feet. You're expressing yourself in a second language that's not your native language, so it's a challenge. I've never had to do a debate in Chinese. I'd probably be having all kinds of problems debating. So I think you guys are doing a good job having to do this in a second language. What I like to say is I think I'll focus on some positive things I saw. I always like to look at contradictions within a team. Are people saying things that contradict themselves? And when the affirmative said something like, well, but your evidence from the US, what evidence do you have that the US is like Taiwan? So I thought, okay, evidence from other countries, especially the US, is much easier to find. Finding evidence from Taiwan is a lot harder. So it's always easy to attack other countries' evidence. But then they brought up evidence from the UK, and I started thinking, oh, is the negative going to point that out? That, hey, and I know you responded to that. That's what I was going to say is a good thing. You said that, and I'm thinking, oh, you're opening up a chance for them to attack you, to say, your evidence is from the UK. What evidence do you have that the UK is like Taiwan? But you did that in your rebuttal, or something. I think somebody did in a rebuttal, I think it was, that said, well, the reason why we use this evidence from the UK is because our plan is very similar to the UK plan. And it was like, good, okay, that makes that clear. You've connected the dots. In other words, sometimes for you, because you've been thinking about it, you just say this, say this, say this, say this, say this. We are just hearing you say this, this, this. We don't see the connections all the time. So the more you can help build those connections for us, it will increase your chance that we understand you. We feel like we're more in favor of your side because you're making clear and logical arguments, connected arguments with evidence, etc. In terms of the actual content of your debate, I think one thing that I felt, again, Negative had an opportunity to bring this as an issue. You said that you wanted to put data at the police department, right? But at the same time, you say, well, all this is going to be available on an app. So it's not just, you register at the police department, is that right?
You can only see the current location of the sex offender on the app, not all the personal information like pictures. You can only see plots on the app. And you'll know, oh, there's a sex offender, so I have to go.
Okay, so, but again, it's like, well, if you're making personal information already public in the police station, right? Then what difference is it if you make it also on the app? In other words, if I can see the picture of the person in the police station.
Because you maybe not memorize all the sex offender's face, so you can, and maybe they're.
Because when you're going to view their pictures or more details about their personal information, you have to use their ID number to register an account. However, when you're using an app, you don't have to register an account. You can only see their current location, like moving dots. So you remember. But
is there going to be like an ID number, or a number to that dot? In other words, if I find that a dot every time I walk from school to home, there's this dot following me. Now I want to kind of know what's going on. I go to the police station. Do I just say I found a dot following me? Can they find out who this dot is for me? Or
the police might help, and also we will write down their current their like habitats or their.
We have GPS, so they will know who the sex offender is.
Well, but no, she's saying that you don't know who it is.
Did you give up GPS? Isn't that part of your plan, giving up GPS?
Sorry.
Yeah, electric monitor.
Oh, they're giving up. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so in other words, what I felt was, I felt like your plan had something there, but I couldn't really figure out how this is really going to work. And therefore, is it really going to solve the problem? In other words, if I just see a dot, what if I'm in a crowd? I'm at a park. I'm a young kid, okay? I'm in a crowd. I see a dot, but there's 20, 30 people around me. I don't know which person is the dot. How am I going to avoid this person?
Because the negatives that didn't ask us, but actually we have an emergency button. And if they feel really dangerous, I can press the emergency button and the police will.
And you think the police is going to show up in 10 seconds? I mean, if I'm a child, okay, let's say you have a child sex offender. You're worried about your child. Your child is 10 years old. They're walking home, they're looking at their app because you told them to look at the app, but they're surrounded, you know, Taipei train station. I mean, you think about how many people go through a Taipei train station. You see a dot, but you can't tell who that person is. And then suddenly that person just pulls you into a closet or pulls you into the bathroom and, you know.
If you see there's a dot, you'll raise your awareness.
But that's gets installed. How is that going to help? If this person's a good sex offender, he probably has figured out a way. He has figured out a way to avoid, you know, they'll know. In other words, if they look at you and you're like looking all around, okay, they'll be like, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of pretend I'm not seeing this person. You know, I'll wait until you're not looking anymore, and then I'm going to grab you. Or, you know, I watch too much, maybe Dexter or something. I'll have a little poison. I'm gonna stick it on your neck, and suddenly you're gonna kind of faint. Okay. In other words, unless I can see the face, so I can know, ooh, it's that guy, and maybe shout, "Stay away from me!" Okay. And everybody else starts to pay attention. Why is this little kid saying, "Stay away from me"? Then it may help. So anyway. But this is where I feel like sometimes plans just get ignored. I mean, you focus on money, you focus on maybe human rights, easy things to do regardless of what the plan is. But then it just seems like policy, the whole reason we call it policy is because we want things that work, things that are going to help.
Harms, inherent block, planks.
Okay, that's your plan.
Solvency.
Solvency. That, to me, is the more interesting thing to hear is really, do we have